Triangle 2009 Chapter 1 The Weight of Motherhood. The film opens with a hauntingly quiet scene. We see Jess, a single mother, looking distressed. Her son Tommy, who has autism, is painting on the floor. There is a sense of overwhelming exhaustion in her eyes. This isn't just a mother getting ready for a trip. This is a woman on the edge of a breakdown. We see her cleaning up spilled paint, a toy boat in a pool, and hearing a doorbell ring, but when she opens it, no one is there. This is our first clue that time is already folding in on itself. She finally leaves the house, promising Tommy a fun day, and heads to Triangle Harbor. Chapter 2 The Departure into the Void. At the harbor, we meet Greg, the owner of the yacht Triangle. He's a wealthy, kind man who clearly cares for Jess. When Jess arrives, she is alone. When asked where Tommy is, she pauses a long, awkward silence before saying he is at school. It's Saturday. The logic doesn't fit, but the group is too polite to push her. As they set sail, the atmosphere is light for everyone except Jess. She falls into a deep, dreamless sleep and wakes up screaming from a nightmare she can't remember. Suddenly, the ocean becomes a mirror, perfectly still. The wind dies. A massive black wall of clouds appears. Greg tries to radio for help and picks up a chilling distress call. A woman's voice, screaming that someone is killing them. Before they can react, the storm hits. It's not a normal storm. It's a violent, localized vortex that flips the yacht like a toy, throwing Heather into the dark water. Chapter 3 The Arrival of the Aeolus. The survivors Greg, Jess, Victor, Sally, and Downey cling to the overturned hull. Out of the fog, a massive ocean liner appears. The Aeolus. It looks like a ghost from the 1930s. As they climb aboard, the scale of the ship makes them look like ants. The silence is deafening. Jess immediately feels a crushing sense of déjà vu. She knows the corridors, the smell of the air, the pattern on the carpets. They find a ballroom where a feast is laid out, fresh fruit, champagne, and chicken. But as they watch, the food begins to rot in seconds, turning black and covered in flies. This is the archive of the ship, showing them that time here does not move forward. It rots in place. Chapter 4 The First Bloodshed. The group splits up. Greg and Jess head to the theater while Victor searches the lower decks. Jess finds her own keys, the ones she left at home, on the floor of a hallway. Then she sees a reflection of a masked figure. Panic sets in. She finds Victor, but he's not the friend she knew. He has a massive wound in the back of his head and tries to kill her. Jess escapes, only to reach the theater and find a scene of pure carnage. Greg has been shot. Sally and Downey are screaming, accusing Jess of the murder because Greg said it was you. Suddenly, shots ring out from the balcony. A figure in a burlap mask and a grease-stained jumpsuit begins methodically executing them. Jess watches in horror as her friends are butchered. She runs, leading to a brutal, high-stakes chase through the bowels of the ship. Chapter 5 The Realization of the Loop. Jess manages to overpower the masked killer on the deck. She uses an axe to defend herself. Before the killer falls overboard, she speaks in a voice that sounds exactly like Jess's. You have to kill them. It's the only way to get back to him. The killer falls into the ocean. Jess breathes a sigh of relief, thinking it's over. But then she hears it, voices shouting from the water. She runs to the railing and looks down. There in the distance is the overturned yacht Triangle. And on top of it are Greg, Victor, Sally, Downey, and herself. She is watching the beginning of the movie happen all over again from the perspective of the ship. Chapter 6 The Invisible Observer. Now the perspective shifts completely. Jess is no longer the confused victim. She is the hidden Jess. She watches from the shadows as Greg, Victor, and her new self board the Aeolus. She realizes she is living in the background of the scenes we saw earlier. Desperate to change the outcome, she tries to warn Victor. But the logic of the loop is cruel. In her panic to explain the situation, she accidentally pushes Victor. and his head slams into a sharp metal hook on the wall. This is the exact wound she saw on him in the first cycle. She hasn't saved him. She has caused his injury. Chapter 7: The Archive of Despair. Jess wanders into the crew's locker room looking for a way out. What she finds is the most chilling visual in the film. She discovers a pile of her own lockets, dozens, perhaps hundreds of them, lying in a heap on the floor. Each one represents a failed cycle. Nearby, she finds a stack of crumpled notes in her own handwriting, all saying the same thing: if they board, kill them all. She realizes that the masked killer from before wasn't a stranger. It was a version of her who believed that killing everyone was the only reset button to get back to her son, Tommy. She is faced with a choice: try to be a savior and fail, or become the executioner to end the loop. Chapter 8: The Mountain of Sallies. The loop begins to splinter. We see a version of Jess who is far more aggressive. This hunter Jess stalks Sally and Downey. In a horrifying sequence, Sally is wounded and flees to the upper deck. She stumbles upon a literal mountain of corpses. All of them are her. Dozens of dead Sallys are piled up, rotting in the sun, showing that this specific moment has played out identically for an eternity. The original Jess watches as the hunter Jess finally kills Sally and Downey. The new Jess then fights hunter Jess on the deck, eventually throwing her into the ocean. This confirms that to exit the ship you must be defeated and cast into the sea. Chapter 8.1: The Theater of Butchery and the Ghostly Call. And the loop continues to fracture. Jess finds herself standing on the high balcony of the ship's grand theater. From this vantage point, she watches the most agonizing scene play out again. She sees Greg, the man who genuinely wanted to help her, stumbling below. Below him, Sally and Downey are screaming, caught in a web of lies they don't understand. The logic of the ship is now clear to Jess. She must become the shadow. She picks up the shotgun, her hands trembling. She realizes that the woman who shot them in the first cycle wasn't some outside monster. It was her. She witnesses the moment Sally manages to escape the theater, bleeding and broken. Jess follows her through the narrow industrial veins of the ship. She hears a crackling sound from a nearby radio room. It's the distress call. She realizes that the woman screaming they heard on the yacht was actually Sally, recording her final moments in this very room. The archive of the ship isn't just objects. It's a symphony of recorded screams that play on an infinite loop. Chapter 8.2: The Engine Room and the Physics of Hell. Desperate to find a way to stop the ship entirely, Jess descends into the scorching heat of the engine room. The environment here is oppressive. The sound of grinding metal and hissing steam mirrors the state of her mind. She finds tools, heavy wrenches and pipes, but nothing can stop the ALS. The ship is a living entity that feeds on her guilt. She encounters another version of Victor. This one's almost a zombie, wandering aimlessly with the metal hook still embedded in his skull. He doesn't attack. He just stares with hollow eyes. Jess realizes that these duplicates aren't just copies. They are the accumulated suffering of every failed attempt she has made. She stalks the remaining versions of her friends with a cold mechanical efficiency. She watches as the new Jess, the one who just arrived, grows stronger and more desperate. The two versions of herself eventually meet on the windswept deck. It's a battle of two identical souls, one who wants to survive and one who wants to be punished. During the fight, the masked Jess, our protagonist, intentionally leaves openings. She realizes that for the loop to move to the beach, she must lose this fight. She allows herself to be struck, pushed, and finally cast into the dark, churning waters of the Atlantic. As she sinks into the cold blue, she doesn't feel fear. She feels a dark sense of progress. She has completed the archive of the ship, and now the shore is calling her name. Chapter 9: The Return to the Shore. Jess wakes up on a beach. The sun is shining, and for a moment, the nightmare feels like a dream. She runs to her house hoping to find Tommy, but as she looks through the window, she sees the home Jess, the version of herself. From the very beginning of the movie, she watches as home Jess loses her temper, yelling and hitting Tommy because of his autism. The ship Jess, who has just survived a literal hell to see her son, is disgusted by her own past behavior. She decides there is only one way to fix her life. She kills the home Jess with a hammer, hides the body in the trunk of the car. When she gets out to move it, she sees a pile of dead seagulls on the side of the road. The loop is not just on the ship. It covers her entire life. In a moment of distraction, she crashes the car into a truck. The home Jess in the trunk is found dead. Tommy dies in the crash. But ship Jess stands by the road unharmed, a ghost watching her own tragedy. A taxi driver, a symbol of the ferryman to the afterlife, picks her up. He asks if he should keep the meter running. She says yes. She asks to be taken to the harbor. She walks to the pier, sees Greg and her friends, and boards the yacht again. She knows she will forget everything once she falls asleep on the boat. But she chooses to enter the loop again, hoping that in the next million cycles, there is a version where she can save her son. The movie ends exactly as it began, a perfect, unbroken circle of grief. Chapter 11. The Myth of Sisyphus and the Purgatory of Guilt. As the credits prepare to roll, we have to look at the logic behind this nightmare. The name of the ship, Aeolus, is not accidental. In Greek mythology, Aeolus was the father of Sisyphus, the man condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only for it to roll back down every time he reached the top. Jess is the modern Sisyphus. Her boulder is her guilt over how she treated her son, Tommy, while he was alive. The ship, the ocean, and even the car crash are parts of a psychological purgatory. Some fans believe Jess actually died in the car crash at the very beginning, and everything we see is her soul refusing to move on, trying to fix a past that is already set in stone. The taxi driver is the most mysterious figure. He represents the ferryman Karen, offering her a chance to go to the afterlife. But because of her love and her shame, Jess chooses to return to the harbor. She chooses the archive of her suffering over the peace of death. She is trapped not by a monster or a curse, but by her own inability to forgive herself. Every time she hugs Greg at the end, she isn't starting a new journey, she is restarting her own execution. Triangle is more than just a slasher movie. It is a masterpiece of circular storytelling that leaves us with a haunting question. If you could see your mistakes on a loop, would you have the strength to let go? Or would you keep fighting to change the unchangeable? Jess's story is a tragic reminder that sometimes our greatest enemy is the version of ourselves we try to leave behind. The film leaves us in that same harbor, watching the yacht sail into the fog, knowing exactly what lies ahead. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the mind-bending world of Triangle. If you enjoyed this detailed recap and analysis, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite psychological thriller. What do you think? Is Jess in hell, or is this just a glitch in time? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Until next time, watch out for the mirrors. And remember, some loops are never meant to be broken. Goodbye.